Do you remember having a dream as a child? Can you take yourself back to a place in your life where there was something that you just knew? You didn't know how you knew it, you didn't know where it came from, but just some dream, some passion that bubbled up. How old were you? Can you remember what it was? I remember when I was 7 or 8, I remember I have a picture in my head of me sitting with shorts on, no socks or shoes and a little t-shirt, and sitting on a stoop on Charles Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a row home, 7127 Charles Street. And I was sitting on this stoop holding a guitar that was bigger than I was. And I was sitting there, and I have this picture in my steamer trunk. I saw it recently. And I was sitting there playing the guitar, and on the stoop were all these little girls listening to me play the guitar. And behind me, in the screen door, these stoops had 2 homes in a row home. And my mother was leaning out a screen door with this hair all up in that French twist thing they had back then. And these pedal pushers, these like pink pedal pushers. And she's just leaning out, staring at me. And when I think about that picture, I know what I was singing. I know the song I was singing because I wrote it. And it was a song called, a little much of myself back then, but it was a song called, I'm Going to Be a Movie Star. You know, no like fancy lyrics, just cut to the chase. And I remember sitting there singing that, this very simple little, I'm going to be a movie star. And these girls all looking at me like, yes, you are. And my mother, if you look at the picture, my mother looking like, so sad. Because I remember what followed all of that. I also remember the day I saw that guitar on Frankfurt Avenue, walking down from the Acme Market with groceries in my arms and walking by this guitar shop on Frankfurt Avenue, music shop, and seeing this guitar in the window and thinking, I want that. I want that. Why did I want that? Why did I want a guitar when everybody else wanted footballs and any other sports things they could think of? But I wanted that guitar. Just like I wanted the puppet show. I wanted a puppet show. Why did I want a puppet show? How weird was that? I wanted a puppet show. And I remember the Christmas that my father had to go get me a puppet show. Because you had to get me what I wanted because I was just annoying. I wanted a puppet show. And he went and found a puppet show, and I had a puppet show. So I got to start playing puppets and doing plays. And I remember when I wanted that guitar. When my birthday came around, I got that guitar. And then I had to learn how to play it. Where's your guitar? Where's your puppet show? Where were you back then? What was in your mind? What dreams did you have? Are they still there? Are they buried? There was such a vivid dream for me. Vivid dream of who I was going to be. And you know, back then, I didn't have any hindrances to believing that sitting on that step, the next logical step was movie stardom. That was it. Of course I was going to go right from Charles Street at 8 to the big screen and be a movie star. Why wouldn't I? What's there to tell me I couldn't? What's there to say you can't? Nothing until there is. Passion comes when you are just willing and able to allow whatever wants to come up to come up. Our job at this point in our lives is to get it, to find it, to remember it, to feel it, to let it, and not let anything shoot it down. Not let anything talk it down. Fast forward from 8 to about 16, 17, and I wrote this song called Little Girl. And it was a really good pop rock song. And everybody, all the kids in high school, I would sing it at at parties, and everybody's like, this is a hit song, this is a hit song. Then we recorded it. And that was fun, doing a whole night of recording it. Remember those recorders back then? It was all tape, and and if you made a mistake, you had to go back and splice it, and put it back. It was amazing. It took all night. And I was getting up the next morning to take the train into New York. I had the list of all the record labels, and I was showing up at every record label with a little cassette of Little Girl. I didn't know you didn't do it that way. I didn't know that people had to have an agent or a lawyer. I didn't know that they had stacks of tapes from all over the world of people who wanted their songs recorded. I didn't know any of that. I was just going to go and do it until, and I don't mean no disrespect to my father, until my father sat me down that night, like 2, 3 in the morning, and said to me, this is how this works. You can't get up and just go to New York and do this. This is what happens. You need an agent, you need this. The song's good, but it's not what we hear. It was meant, I'm sure, to save me the pain of going to New York and having every door slammed in my face. But what if some cute little girl, because I was hot, cute little girl, what if some cute receptionist went, you know what, he's adorable. Look at this, he thinks this is how it works. Let me take this in there and bring it in, and somebody turns it on and goes, this is a good song. How's he look? Wow, he looks great. Let's put this together. Who knows what would have happened? And who knows if every door slammed in my face wouldn't possibly make me even more determined to go on. But I didn't get up and go. I stayed home. I never took that song anywhere. And all my friends were like, why? I was like, it's not how it works. And I started to take on the beliefs that I was told. It's not how it works, you got to do this. And then I started just mailing it out to lawyers and agents, which I got no response from. What I'm doing is explaining to you what happens to our dreams when we let them get hindered or stopped. And also, what's happened to those dreams? Now, as you all know, my career took off because what ended up happening is my mother died a few years later, surprisingly. And it shifted so much of my life that I just said, that's it, I'm done. And I just got up and went to New York and started auditioning with no apparent talent. No, I had talent, but no talent a Broadway talent. I mean, I'm like, Broadway. I didn't have any training. I had no dance training. I had no real singing training. I had no acting training. I just had chutzpah. And I just thought, go to New York. You'll be a star. How could you not? I still had that feeling that, of course, idea to demonstration is done. Now, that's how I speak now. Then it was just, what I want to do happens. Period, end of sentence. Don't talk to me anymore. My father was in no mood to talk me out of it at this point. He just said, fine, leave college, go to New York and see what happens. Well, we all know what happened. I went to New York, and within a month, I was in a show. And then I was in another show. And then I got an off-Broadway show. And then I got my big Broadway show. And then I was just above title starring in all these shows. And it just happened. Why? Because no one could talk me down from it. I actually took the dream and I moved forward. And I wasn't listening to anyone. And I shared this in class yesterday. It wasn't until, and that went on, just went on. The trajectory was so amazing until one thing happened, and that was an audition for a show called On Your Toes. I was hired to star in this would be my big break after West Side Story. James Mellon, well, it was Makarova, James Mellon in On Your Toes. It was done. Contracts were being negotiated. Everything was done. I'm on my way back to Philadelphia for a big party, and it all falls down because some boy in some show, Pirates of Penzance, goes on as an understudy. The director sees him and says, that's what I've been looking for. We were going to settle for this James Mellon guy. That's what I've been looking for. And that's really how he felt, and I knew it. I knew he was settling, but I didn't care. I was going to be great in the part. I was too handsome by his accounts. I was too smart. I knew too much. He had all this stuff of why I was wrong, but I was still the best one. Until he saw the understudy go on. Now, did that just happen by accident? Was that just accidental? Was I suddenly a victim because suddenly this happened? I'm a victim to... No, I thought so. But what happened? He got the part, I didn't. And right there, I go back and see it. Right there, my veneer broke. Oh, I see it's possible for me not to get the part. It's possible for me not to be who I think I'm going to be. And right there, the veneer cracked, and I started getting some things and not getting some things. Suddenly, it wasn't everything I walked into was mine, which was my motto. If I'm here, you can all go home. That's what I used to think. In fact, one guy said to me once, he said, I feel like if you walk in, we should all go home. And I'm like, go with that thought. Really, that's who I was. No, I really was that certain. So I want to talk about this thing called the crack in the veneer. I want to talk about what is it in you? What has happened in you, in your life, that has stopped you from dreaming and from taking that dream and realizing it? Not taking that dream and doing your best to see what happens. Taking that dream and realizing it. There are people in my life, I watch them, John Livesey is one of them, who turned his whole career around and said, here's what I want to be, here's what I want to do. It took a number of years of a lot of work. It didn't just happen. I look at Holland Taylor, the great actress Holland Taylor, who spoke at Nora's service. I loved her one-word acceptance of her Emmy, because she won her Emmy at like 50, maybe 55, and she'd been in the business forever. And she walked up, she took the Emmy, and she went, overnight. And the whole place went hysterical. But that was overnight, because she went from, here's what I'm going to do, and then never looked back and just kept doing. What is it that stops us from going forward? What is it that makes us even compromise our dreams? What is it that turns us away from our passion and makes us start to settle for things that maybe we're not so passionate about? In the first week of Passion, I read you the quote of Yo-Yo Ma. Passion is one great force that unleashes creativity, because if you are passionate about something, you are more willing to take risks. And I asked you about, would you be willing this month to take risks? And last week I asked you to start feeling. Would you be willing to feel whatever came along? Did y'all do that this week? Yes. Barbara and I. Okay, so I can tell you, I worked my own lecture last week to myself, and I have been feeling so much. It's been incredibly annoying. It really has, because I've been willing to feel what I'm feeling. And some feelings have come up, and I've been like, all right, I said I'd feel this, but my go-to is to correct it. My go-to is to, okay, I don't want to feel that. Let's feel something else. But I promised everybody that I would feel what I was feeling. And those feelings took me down some rabbit holes, back to some dreams I've had that I let go. Dreams that I'm still quite capable of achieving. And I was like, wow. So that's what happens when you actually give yourself permission to feel what you feel. The intelligence of the universe comes right up in those feelings and says, well, while you're here, let me tell you a couple things. And then you go, wow, okay. Ernest Holmes said, always expect the good in life. There is a radiant feeling flowing through your consciousness at all times. I said that last week. And Webster's Dictionary of a Feeling is, Webster's Dictionary of Passion is a strong feeling of excitement or enthusiasm for something, or about doing something. So passionate. When was the last time you had a strong desire to do something? Not just a passing desire to do something, but something that is yours to do. You know it's yours to do. It calls you to do it. So much so that you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't think. All you can think of is this thing that you want to do. When was the last time that's happened to you? And the only reason you may say, well, that was a long time ago, is because you filled your life up with compromises. You filled your life up with things that are okay, they're good, they're comfortable. You may even like them, you may enjoy them. But what about that thing that upended you when you were 8, sitting on a doorstep? What about that thing that just made you say, I don't care what anyone thinks, this is mine, this is who I am, this is what I get to do, and I don't care what the rest of the world has to say about it? What about that moment in time? How far away is that? The title of my talk today is Call me a fool. Call me a fool. I want to ask you, are you what some people might consider a fool? How many of you have ever heard somebody tell you that what you were about to do was foolish? Right. How many of you have actually been called right out a fool? I have. Yeah. Foolish. It's foolish to think you can do that. It's foolish to think you can make a living out of that. I was sitting with a parent and a daughter recently, and the daughter was saying that she kind of wanted to do musical theater, but she wasn't sure. But she's thinking, she was really thinking what I really should do is get a degree in what was it, poli-science or something. I was like, well, those two make sense. Musical theater, poli-science, whatever it was she was saying. Whatever it was like, do you have passion for both? She goes, no, and her mother said, well, we feel that it's important that she get a good education, not in musical theater, but in something that she can fall back on. And you can only imagine, as I'm sitting there, and this was not really a spiritual counseling, so I was safe. I didn't have to be as impersonal as I tend to be as a spiritual counselor. I got to have an opinion because it was just friends asking my opinion, although they knew I was a spiritual counselor. So I was on good behavior. But I did say, I said, I have to just tell you, when you plan to fall back on something, you usually fall back on something. I said, and let me also disabuse you the idea that musical theater is something you just can get up and do. There are colleges, universities now that teach you how to be a better dancer, a better singer, a better actor, teach you about the business of musical theater. I said, and just so you know, the thing you're talking to her about falling back on could probably net her, I don't know, maybe 80, 90, 100,000 a year. And she was like, yes. I said, And one episode of Big Bang Theory paid each one of those actors $1 million an episode. They had 26 episodes a year. That's 26 million, as opposed to 80,000 of a life that doesn't really make her happy. But this could actually be really exciting. And then the next question, what do you think the next question is? But how many people really make that? So now I'm sitting here with this little girl and understanding that she's hearing not everybody makes that. That's 1 in a million. She may not be that 1 in a million. Why would we put that into her head? Good, by thinking we're being a good parent, by thinking we're doing the right thing. We're teaching them what they need to know. Well, I think, call me a fool, but I think it's time for us to stop knowing all that crap and start getting back to the passion that could literally take us in a direction that our lives could just turn upside down. Thoughts? No, I'm kidding. I have to tell you, when I was preparing to come in here, I'm very emotional about this topic because I look at Nora and I think about all the things she wanted to do. And I can get to a place where it gets me mad. But I can also get to a place where I understand that life is infinite and I have no idea what she's doing right now. And I also understand, because she does talk through me, and I hear her very often saying very derogatory things to me when I am going down a path, and I can hear her saying, oh, get over it, Blanche. And, I can hear her in my head saying this, and at one point this week, when I was feeling, going through things, this little voice came in my head, and it said, don't get upset about me. Look in the mirror and see what there is to get upset about for yourself. Now, that might not have been her, because I can't imagine she'd be that rude to me, but probably was, whatever that energy was. I know, you all know her. But I had to look and go, okay, you're right. We spend so much time looking out there at the things we could fix, when it's like, I don't need to fix anything in here, but I do need to unlock some things that I apparently have locked up. So what have you locked up? What have you locked up inside of yourself, thinking that it's done, or it's past, or it's just not here anymore? That day came and went. It's not here anymore. I love that Yvette did what she did. I love that she got up and started it with the dialogue. My aunt used to live in Paris. And then talk about this aunt that jumped into the Seine with her shoes off. You know, leapt without looking and tumbled into the Seine. The water was freezing. She spent a month sneezing, but said she would do it again. Here's to the fools who dream, crazy though they may seem. So call me a fool, but I still have big dreams. I have huge dreams. I have as many dreams as I ever had sitting on that staircase, sitting on that stoop in Philadelphia. I still have ginormous dreams. And something happened this week. Perfect, because I'm feeling and feeling and feeling. And we had friends come in from New York, and the friend that came in, both of them are they're in the Broadway scene. One of them acts on Broadway all the time. The other one is a director, producer. He's in charge of staging all of the Jersey Boys world round. He has an amazing job, and he's about to go off to do something, and as he's explaining it to me, I'm feeling like the 8-year-old boy sitting on that stoop, and my blood pressure is going, and I'm getting all these tingles, and I'm like, and he's explaining this to me. They're going into rehearsal for a production of West Side Story. Now, that's not what did it for me, because usually that sends me running. But he's explaining it to me. But there's a company, they're doing it in Tokyo, in Japan. And it's called a stage-around theater in the heart of Tokyo. It's already done in Amsterdam. You have someone in it? He's Tony in that production? Great. So good, then you'll be excited to hear what I'm going to say. In Amsterdam, there's a thing called the Imagination Theater, and they call it a purpose-built theater. It's designed by Robin De La Vita, and here's what it does. There's a 1,500-seat theater in the center of this like airplane hangar, gorgeous, huge space. The auditorium, the seats rotate. The stage is the entire surround. And it's gigantic. And in Amsterdam, they did a production of Anne Frank, ran for 6 years, sold out, couldn't get a ticket. 6 years for the Diary of Anne Frank. And what happens is, here's this ginormous theater but then when Tony starts running out for that, before he sings Something's Coming, he will just run, and the whole audience will follow him. And there he is. And now he's, on the West Side Highway with the river, right? The whole river. And then it will turn this way and go to Doc's drugstore. And then it will go to Maria's, bridal shop. It just goes and goes and goes. And you sit in the audience and you are taken on a journey. Well, I'm sitting there listening to this, and it's bubbling up, and I'm like, I couldn't figure out why I was getting so agitated, in a good way, but agitated. There are big ideas in this room, things that are so huge. That was billions of dollars spent to create this, and now they want to create them all over the world. And I just decided in that moment, I had to be in the middle of it. I had to. So I said, great. When is this? When are you there? And the American company's how long there? And it's going to be in English? Great. I'm coming to Tokyo. I want to see it. I want to be in the middle of it. I want to understand it. I want to know how it works. And I want to come back and start thinking about how do I do this somewhere. Right? So Kevin says to me, Kevin's like, we're not going to Tokyo. I said, I didn't say we. I said, I'm going to Tokyo. You are welcome to join me. I said, but this isn't a should we go to Tokyo. This is a I'm going to Tokyo. I'm turning 65 in September, and I will be damned if I'm not going to be 65 in Tokyo, standing in the middle of something that makes me so excited I'm out of my skin. So Kevin's like, well, we could figure that out. I said, no, you don't even need to help me figure it out. I will figure it out. I'm going to Tokyo. And I thought about it, and I was like, so what's going on? Well, go back about 25 years ago, I was in New York, had a lot of money being pumped into me as a director, and I had this idea to direct a play called A God in the House. And it was a very controversial play that had been given to me to direct about the first woman who used Kevorkian's suicide machine. And it was a very deep, deep, heavy play. And it took place in Kevorkian's apartment or home. It also had the place where the suicide machine was. It also had the woman's house where she lived. And then it had this whole place where the husband chases her out of into this big garden. So I rented a warehouse off the West Side Highway, and I went into this warehouse. I put the audience in the center of the room in chairs and staged the whole play around it. And all of a sudden it came back to me. And I remember everybody saying to me, including the people giving me the money, saying, no one's going to want to sit in a chair. And of course I didn't have hydraulics, so everybody had to move their chairs every time. So first you have a good seat, then maybe not such a good seat, and then a better seat. And they moved their chairs all the way. People did it. They were annoyed, but people did it. And I thought to myself, I did that. I did that. I had that idea. Here's someone who took that idea and ran with it. I let the annoyances of people, audience members who couldn't see over people's heads, and my producers and people saying, we can't do it like this. We don't, let's get through this workshop. And the whole thing kind of sizzled. I didn't go to New York to sell my song. I let this be kind of just sizzle away because I went, well, maybe they're right. How many maybe they're rights do I have to learn from before I realize maybe I'm right? Maybe there's something in me that is so profoundly passionate that I can't say no to it. Well, that's going to be Tokyo, and it's not that I'm coming back to suddenly open up $1 billion theater in the round somewhere. That's not really my aim. My aim is this, and this is why I bring this story to you. My aim is this. I know there's something in the middle of that is going to ignite in me. It's called passion. And it's not a passion for this project. It's not passion for this. It's an unadulterated, pure passion called God that lives me, breathes me, moves me. And when I get in that mode, everything is possible and nothing can stop me. And many of you who know me personally know when I'm in that mode, nothing can stop me. It's mine to do, I do it, get out of the way, so that I may do exactly what is mine to do. That's what I'm asking you to think about today. I'm asking you to think about, where is your Tokyo? Are you willing to be called a fool? Are you willing to walk and stand up against anything and everyone that tells us this isn't possible? You know how silly you're going to look doing that? How many of you hate looking silly? There are those of you that hate looking silly, right? I don't care. I hate having a bad hair day, but I don't hate looking silly. Maybe we just all need to be silly. What do you think? I think maybe we just need to be willing to be silly, to be willing to be called a fool, to be willing to do what other people won't do or say is impossible. Maybe we are the ones that are being called from this passion that we are to doing the things we are here to do. We are here to enjoy ourselves. We are here to be passionately involved in our lives. If we are not living our purpose. We are not living our passion. We are not living our God selves. I say it is time for every person in this room to book a flight to Tokyo. Metaphorically, find your Tokyo and go there. I guarantee you it's going to be right here, and it's going to make your life just explode. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.